So I was recommended to do a video response to Three Arrows, and of course I did check out his channel just to see what the guy was about. And the first video that I came across was a recent video titled How to Fall Down the Anti-Social Justice Warrior Rabbit Hole. Now, from my personal experience of dealing with these type of people, is they have a lot of things to say but with very little substance at all.
Now, to me, this is exactly what the anti-SJW community was about in the time period I described earlier. An example of this was the content released after the election of Donald Trump. It wasn't about how shitty it is that a conservative is now president, or how good it is that Donald Trump got elected so that he can finally get rid of the ACA or DACA or any other policy position. It was about how mad the others were.
I would agree to a certain degree that there are a lot of people who don't understand the reason for why socialism fails. In society, it's made up of people who do not fully comprehend capitalism and don't fully comprehend socialism. People who support the mixed economy claim that socialism doesn't work. But could those people explain the reason for why the food shortages occur? Could those people explain the reason for why the massive big long waiting lines occur? Could those people explain the very reason why the surplus waste occurs? They couldn't. Yes, they are correct in the belief that socialism goes so far outside the bounds of human nature. It wouldn't matter whether you point to that of the NHS or state-run education. People think that socialism just fails because, well, they're speaking about Marxism. The reason for why these problems occur is down to the knowledge problem and the economic calculation problem. Briefly, all you need to understand is the fact that in the absence of market-driven prices, in other words, prices driven by the free market, driven by consumer demand, if you live in the absence of the information of profits and losses, in the absence of prices, you cannot run an economy efficiently. You've got no chance of doing so.
In my time on YouTube, though, I have seen my fair share of people who got sucked into this anti-SJW vortex and who come out of the other side as just another reactionary. What is key here is the mindset the consumption of their content over a long period of time puts you in. Let's pick the biggest in the bunch, supposedly center-left YouTuber Sargon of Akkad as an example. What are some opinions you learned when consuming his vast amount of work? To only name a few examples, the EU sucks, feminism sucks, Brexit is good, Trump is good because he makes the left mad, that Merkel invited millions of migrants because Germans still feel guilty for the Holocaust, and that black people in the US are in a bad position due to broken families, which stems out of the introduction of the welfare state. Now, Karl might be center-left in his heart, I have no idea. But the positions he mostly advocates for and passes on to his viewership are the ones of a conservative talk radio host with the occasional far-right conspiracy theory woven in.
Now, you could ask them a simple question. Do they support a moneyless-based system or a system that involves money where they would try to fix prices above or below market value? So there's two problems here that finish them. And I'm not even talking about the knowledge problem or economic calculation problem. There's two problems here. You would be faced with the absence of the information of price signals through a moneyless based system because there's no prices there if you've got no money. Even if they argue for that moneyless based system, they're doomed. And even if they argue for the government price controls, they're doomed because that leads to the distortion of the information of profits and losses. The second problem that they are faced with is the fact that it's down to a question of where's the money going to come from? Well, since there's only two places money can come from, they're doomed. Is one, the private sector, and two, the printing press. So how are they going to rationally fund an economy, finance a public sector off the back of a printing press that would inevitably lead them to hyperinflation without even a shadow of a doubt? So the only place they can turn to for money is the private sector. So there it is, finished. Their socialism requires the abolishment of the private sector. They can't get rid of it.
You can also see this play out when someone goes against the grain, like when anti-SJW YouTuber Thunderfoot made a series of videos about Brexit in which he espoused his opposition to it. It's not like part of his audience carefully weighted all of Thunderfoot's points and voiced their concerns or how his points were wrong in the comment section. It's limited to mass dislikes and political quips mostly, because he went against the anti-SJW dogma that part of his audience adheres to. There's no real political discussion going on here. The problem is that these creators are kinda caught between being entertainers and political commentators. You might watch a Social Justice the Musical video because it's funny and very competently made, but it also delivers a very clear political agenda. And that's usually the problem with this kind of content. You come for the laughs and the entertainment, but what sticks in your head isn't necessarily a pro-right agenda, but an anti-left one.
They don't comprehend the knowledge problem, they don't comprehend the economic calculation problem. Like I said, I could go on for a lengthy period of time and cover those two things. I actually fully comprehend for why socialism is an abysmal failure, and why it's so evil, and why it led to the food shortage problems and blackouts and the surplus waste problems from the mass production of surplus waste of oranges in California, or the surplus waste of pelts overproduced in the Soviet Union, or the more than 3 pairs of shoes produced in the likes of that of the Soviet Union in the late 1980s that resulted in massive big long waiting lines. Or of course the food shortage problem that you saw in Venezuela, or Cuba, or that of Chile, or even the very, blackout problems that you saw in Venezuela, or Great Britain in the 1970s, or of course the blackout on August 24th, 2003 in New York City. They do not stop to analyse and study. They don't bother. See, anything about economics, it goes out the window, because to them it really is down to an ideological, religious point of view, treating it like a sports team. And the evidence you can gather from that is the fact that he would not bother his backside to go and study and research and question why price ceilings create shortage problems. He would never do it. That's the issue. I could go on further, but there's no point. If there's anything that you would like to add yourself, feel free to comment in the comment section below, and of course I will be sure to get back to you. Thank you for watching the video, and I shall talk to you later. Cheers.